All right, so I am recording. And so we're going to continue where we left off last time. And what I need to do here is after I get check my head out, make sure it doesn't have any major holes on my face or anything, and that it pretty much looks like my profile. Looks like my ears and eyes are pretty well defined and my mouth is pretty well defined. Then I can export it out. I did a little bit of smoothing on it. There's still some bumps here that I might want to smooth out. I don't know that it would make too much of a difference to have like this line right here on my upper lip. Probably wouldn't show up very much. But if I wanted to get rid of that some more, I could go to my mesh tools, sculpting tools, smooth tool, open up the options. And click on my model. Adjust my size a little smaller. And my strength, and then try to hit that line there just and maybe smooth it out just a little bit. I don't want to do too much because I don't want to like completely make my lips disappear or something like that. And I have a pretty big kind of bump on my chin there, so for my case, that's like my beard. And I would put a beard on, try to get a similar beard on this face anyway. So that's going to cover up if my chin to some degree and hide some of this stuff. But I could try to smooth that out a little bit more, just so it's not quite so bumpy right there. So, when you get it the way you like it, and you can always take this through the process and look at it and see if it looks good. And if it looks good, you don't have to come back and do anything more on it. Or you could come back and if it doesn't look good, work on it some more and import it again into Unreal Engine Metahuman Creator. So I'm going to go ahead and go with this one and export this out with the texture map. And it needs to have the texture map on it to send it to Unreal Engine. And so you hit Q to quit that tool that I was in. You have your file, Clarissa. Now you don't have to bring it inside of Unreal Engine. I mean, you could bring your FBX directly into, you don't have to bring it into Maya. You can bring it directly into Unreal Engine if you want to. It's just that Maya will allow me to do some sculpting on it and would allow me to like cut off the back of the head and stuff like that. So at this point, I want to send it out. And I only want to send out this model, this LOD0 model right here. There's a group node as well. Because when you import something in as an FBX, the default is to kind of put whatever you're importing in under a group node, which is the same as an empty or locator. It's just a center. And you don't really need that to bring it into Unreal Engine. So you could go ahead and just leave that. You could delete it, or in my case, I'm just going to select, well, actually, if you want to get sort of not have it connected, you can unparent it under edit. So you can select the head itself and then unparent. Now it doesn't have a group node parent, and I could delete that group node parent if I wanted to. And so now if I send this out, I would do a file, select the head, because I'm going to do selected. So when I do export, I use export selection. There is a send to Unreal. Sometimes I use these, but they don't seem to do really anything. They don't seem to do much more than just regular exporting does. The only thing is you have to like pick your project and where you want to send it, and it puts it into the project. But you can do that anyway. You can just drag it into your Unreal Engine scene. So, and it's an FBX. It does all the same stuff. So, a lot of times I don't even bother with these, and I'll just use export selection. And you do want to open the options for this because there's a lot of things you can export as, and you don't want Maya to really be guessing what that is. You want to specify it. And I know that FBX works for this particular thing going into Unreal Engine. I don't know about OBJ or any of these other ones. They might work too, but I know FBX works. And if you don't have FBX available, then you've got to turn on the plugin. If you don't see it in your list, it means that you haven't loaded the plugin for FBX. And that you're going to do under here, settings preference, under Windows settings preferences, plugin manager. That's where all the plugins are loaded into Maya, and some of them happen automatically, but some of them don't. And like if I type in FBX here, it'll show me the plugin for the FBX codec, and it's turned on to auto load. But I'm not sure that's like default. It used to not be default, maybe it is now. But once you turn it on, it will always be on in that version of Maya. So when I have FBX export, the main thing that I need to make sure is checked in here is embedded media, because if I don't embed media, then the texture map won't be there. So actually maybe, yeah, under edit preset, go into that, and it's going to be right here. Embed media needs to be checked. So again, mine is checked, but I don't know if it's checked by default or if that's just it remembering when I did this the last time I did it. So I've had Maya for years on this machine, and this is the way I always do it. So it's going to be on for me, but it may not be on for you. So make sure that you have embed media on. We're not doing any animation, so it really doesn't matter whether that's checked or not. We do want some of the geometry stuff, just the defaults, smoothing groups and smooth mesh, stuff like that, to be on. And then just close it and export the selection. And you just then choose where you're going to export it to. So usually if I'm doing something like this, I'll just put it in my assets folder inside of my Maya project, and then I'll go find that assets folder and drag the FBX into my scene, my Unreal Engine scene. But you could really save it anywhere you want on your desktop. If it's easier to find there, you could do that. And just give it a name. I'll call this Topher Head 2024. And export selection. Going into my assets folder. It should happen pretty fast. I'll go ahead and minimize that. And we'll go find it. So that's going to be in my class folder. There it is. It's 22 megabytes, so it's not a very big file. I'm just going to want to have that so that I can now open Unreal Engine by clicking my Epic Games launcher. And if you're on these machines, you're going to have an Epic Games launcher on all these machines. If you we haven't done Unreal Engine in this class before, right? So I think probably you can just try it as is. So go ahead and export that, select it, select the model, click on the model, yeah, and then do your file export selection. Open the options and make sure that you're using FBX. Yep. And then go into your options. There's a big box there in the middle that says options, and make sure you have embed media checked. Yeah. And it's towards the bottom. Just make sure that's checked so that it exports the texture. Close those options in the upper right. And what's that? Just the embed media, I think is fine. You don't save it. Don't bother saving it. That's different. It gets saved automatically. You just close that window and export. Yeah. And I did it to my assets folder, but you can do it to your desktop wherever you want. So inside of Epic Games Launcher, once you have that open, we're going to use Unreal Engine 5.2.1, I think, is on those machines. If you're on these machines, you need to use at least well, probably 5.0 up is going to work fine, but it does matter what version you're using with the metahumans because they're customized for the version. Like there are 5.0 metahumans, there's 5.2.1 or 5.2 metahumans. It works for any version of 5.2. And then there's 5.3 metahumans now. And 5.4 is about to come out. So they don't work on the other versions. And so you have to know what version you're using. And you see that up in the upper right here. I'm launching 5.2.1. If I want to see what else is on this machine, I click on the arrow and it tells me that I have 5.1 and 5.2 on this machine. You had a question? Um, cannot locate them. Do you have textures? Did you see it when you um cancel that and click the little checkerboard on the top of the window and see if there's a texture there? There's no texture there. So you had a texture in reality capture, but I don't think you exported it. Although I thought I remembered we said yes when you exported. Oh, okay. So, all right. I think that it's on that other machine. So I think that the texture map was being pulled from not inside the project. So for Maya, just for people that may not use Maya, the only way your texture maps are going to show up all the time in Maya is if you copy the texture map into your images folder in the project, in the Maya project. It can take a texture map from anywhere. And if you import something, it might actually be taking the texture map from somewhere else. It doesn't automatically copy it into the images folder for you. You have to go copy that into the images folder. Oh, okay. Yeah, you're right. So it is embedded in the FBX. It's part of the FBX. So when you imported it, it brought it in from the FBX. But I bet it made a folder right next to the FBX that had all the texture maps, and that was outside of your Maya project. So if you actually drag that FBX into one of your Maya folders and opened it, imported it from there, then the texture would be in your Maya project. But if you imported it from, say, just a random folder where you export it from reality capture, then the texture map would probably be in a folder outside of your Maya project. And it would just be using a pointer to it. And that's why it's not showing up there. You're going to need to do that. So, I mean, I'm recording this, so you can go back and do this. You can't do the metahuman part without the texture map. It just wouldn't work because it uses the texture map. So I'm using 5.2.1 here, and I just clicked the button and it's launching it. And it's going to ask me after it launches, it'll bring me to this screen, which is shows my existing projects. And then it shows some things on the left here for creating a Unreal Engine project. And we want to just click on the games one. And we really don't need anything more than a blank project for this. Because we're really only using Unreal Engine to create the metahuman. Later on, we might actually want to put the metahuman in Unreal Engine, but it's not going to be this scene. This is just for processing the model. So a blank one is going to be the smallest, easiest one to use. And we're using blueprints over here on the right. You don't need the starter content. You don't need ray tracing. All we need to do is give it a name. And I'll call this, let's call it Topher head process. Or better yet, Topher head to meta. it can't be a long name. If I kept typing, like if I put all Metahuman, it's probably, it actually took it. There's a limit on the naming inside of Unreal Engine. It'll turn red if you have too long of a name. And then you want to look where the pathway's going on the left here. This one's going to go into my other course. So I'm going to click on the folder and I want to create this project in this course. And I'll just make a new folder here for Unreal Engine. Now, you know, you guys haven't had a lot of, some of you haven't had a lot of courses with me. When I name stuff, I don't put spaces in my names. That's just a convention from coming from sort of computer science and working in technical, as a technical artist for a long time. It used to be, it would break computers to put spaces in your names. Nowadays they can take it usually, but sometimes it does mess it up. So I just don't do it. I capitalize the first letter and just don't put a space at all, or I put an underscore. So I'm gonna save into this Unreal Engine folder. And I'll hit create. I was completely better for like a week over spring break. Then my daughter started coughing, and then I got it because she coughs on everything, you know. She's 3 years old. She coughs on her food and everything. So we've kind of got her to do the in the arm cough, but she forgets. So this is Unreal Engine. All I need to do is, I don't really need to know everything about Unreal Engine to do this. There's just a few things I need to know. One is I need to know how to turn on the Metahuman plugin. Because we got to use that. So I'm going to go and do that first, because when you turn on plugins in Unreal Engine, it makes you restart the whole thing. So you might as well do that first thing. Also, one of the first things you do is you save your scene. And the way Unreal Engine works, you've got the project stuff down here in the lower left in my content browser. If you don't see that, you might have it in pop-up mode, which means that you have to hover your cursor over the bottom and it'll pop up. You can dock that on the right-hand side. I just always have mine docked, so it just comes up like this, docked in the interface. But you want to use this content browser, it's your outliner. And everything that you do is going to be in the content folder. So there's not a lot in here right now, but this is where I'm going to save my scene. If I had a lot of scenes, if I was making a game, I'd actually make a scenes folder. But since this is just going to be the only thing we're doing, I'm just going to save the scene right here in my contents folder by going to File, save current level as, and just make sure it's going to your content folder and give it a name for what you're working on here. So this is my Topher head process. And I'll just save that. And I'm doing that because, you know, it might crash, and that way I'll have a saved scene. And so it saves a level file, and that's going to be where you want it to open. So if you go to edit, there's a project settings. I always have my project settings docked up here on my top bar, which has these tabs. It's like permanently docked there because I just leave it there. But yours might not be there. And if you want to open it, you go to edit, project settings. It'll be a floating window like this. And you just drag it up to that top bar and drop it on there, and it'll be docked. If you want to move it around and reorder them, you can. But the reason you want to go to your project settings is in maps and modes, under project area, maps and modes, there's an editor startup map, and it's going to be set to the default entry level map. And once you save your scene, you're going to want to switch that to your scene name, because that's what it's going to open to every time you open the project. Every time you open this, it's going to go to whatever this editor startup map is. And people who are new with this, they'll open their project and be like, everything's gone. And it's because it's just going back to your first startup one, and because you didn't set this. So you just set that. You don't even have to hit save or anything. Just set it and go back, and it'll be permanently opening to that. If you save another scene file, you're going to want to change it again. So you can see I've got plugins docked too. That is not going to be docked for you. So you're going to want to go to edit, plugins. It'll probably be a floating window, but it comes up on my top bar because I dock it all the time. And you're going to want to type in Meta H to find the Metahuman plugin and turn it on. Say yes. And it'll ask you in the lower right to restart. You have to restart or the plugin won't start working. Just Metahuman. So, okay, that's possible. So if you don't find it, I'm going to go back to my Epic launcher. So if I go back to my Epic launcher and I go to where my library is under Unreal Engine library, there's two libraries. This is the one on the top here. Your versions come up here, engine versions. Now, it popped up because I restarted, and here it is. When it comes back up, there's going to be some enable missing things coming up. You got to enable those. So make sure you click those and enable them. Otherwise, the plugin won't work. And it might say, you know, you have to restart again. It's a pain. So going back here to the Epic launcher, in your engine versions, there's an installed plugins link right beneath the version you're using. And you may not have, if I click on it, you can see I've got the Metahuman plugin added to this version. And if you don't see it, then that means you haven't added it. It's not in there by default. So what you have to do is you have to go to the marketplace. And once you're in the marketplace, search for Metahuman. And we're looking for the Metahuman plugin. So the one I'm looking for, it's this one. And it says I already have it, but you want to install it to Engine, and it should ask you what version you want to install it to. If you have more than one version, it'll ask you. And then once you install it, you can go back here and it should show up in your installed plugins. And if it gets old and needs to be updated automatically, it'll put like this little exclamation point, and you have to go in and update the plugin. But I don't think it should do that if you freshly install it. But once you do that, you may actually have to relaunch or close this, make sure you save, close, and relaunch again the project. So I'm going to go ahead and do that just to make sure everybody knows how to do that. So let's say I'm installing the plugin. I'm going to do a file. It says everything's saved, but I'm going to go do a save all anyway and close it. And then now that I've made the project, it should show up in my list of projects down here. Whatever I called it. So it's yeah, process. So I can just type in, what did I call it? Head, Topher head. Yeah, there it is. Topher head to Metahuman. So if I double click it and I've installed the plugin, then now the plugin should be available in my plugins manager. It may not be installed on these machines either, but you can install it. We've done that in other classes. Enable what? Yes. Always enable missing if it comes up. I don't know. I've never not enabled the missing. So now if I go back to my plugins and I type in Metahuman, I should see it turned on, checked. So I know that it's there now. And I don't really need the plugins again, so I'm going to close it. Okay, so at this point, I'm ready to bring in my head. And so I'll go find the folder that has my head in it. And, you know, again, we're not doing much in this scene, so I don't really need to make a separate folder to copy this head into. I can just put it in my content folder. If I thought I was going to do more stuff, I'd right click here and create a new folder and call it Topher to Metahuman or something like that. Double click into it and then drag my head into that empty area. So that once I do that, it's going to bring up this import window. There is no skeletal mesh, it's just a model. I don't need nanite. And convert scene is something that is never hurts to have on, I don't think. That's just if your Maya doesn't have its axes in the same way as Unreal Engine. Like I think Maya has a Y up and Unreal Engine has a Z up. So it's supposed to change that so that it's not going to be rotated in the wrong way when you bring it in, but it might be rotated in the wrong way anyway. So you'll just fix it once you see how it comes in. But it doesn't hurt to have that turned on. And one thing is that I did use 2020. Well, actually, I don't know what I used to export the FBX. There's different versions of FBX, so that could make a difference. But I'll go ahead and import. So what I'm going to look for here, because I really don't know the scale that it's going to come in at. I might get a couple warnings, that's fine. Usually warnings don't matter. I see that the texture map did come in. And again, I might not even see anything in my world because it might be really tiny. Or actually, I'm sorry, I haven't even brought it into my world yet. So what I see here is that I have a Lambert texture that came in from Maya. I have a static mesh, which is the model. And, oh, sorry, this is the material, this is the texture, this is the model. I don't really care about the material and the texture. I'm just going to take the static mesh and drag it into my scene. So I want to see what it looks like. And I'm going to reset the position so it centers it in the world by clicking the little arrow to the right of the location settings here. So they say 0, 0, 0. So for those of you who are not familiar with Unreal Engine, when you have an object in the scene, it's going to show up in the upper right here. This is kind of like your scene outliner, where your project outliner is down in the lower left. And this whole panel over here is called a details panel. And, well, actually, the bottom part of it is called a details panel. And whatever you have selected in the upper part is the details for it is going to show up in the bottom part. And the first thing is always going to be the transforms. So that's your position and scale and rotation and 3D space. And you can see it comes in really huge, big head. And that doesn't really matter. It comes in a little bit high up, so I could pull it down a little bit probably. And I could scale it. Like if I want to, I could put, 0.5, 0.5. And make it a little smaller, just so it's easier to work with. And I'm not sure why it went -90 there. Let me just, oh, I see, because I moved it down. Okay, yeah. All right, so you're going to use your Alt key, like most programs like Maya and other ones. Your Alt key is for moving around. F is going to frame it if I have it selected. So if I select it, it's going to have an orange sort of line around it. And I can use my wheel to zoom in on my mouse. I can use my right mouse button to orbit, or I can use my Alt and my left mouse button. It's a different kind of orbit, right? Um, right mouse button is kind of more like rotating from the camera's point, and Alt is actually rotating around the object you're looking at. Alt and left mouse button. So that looks fine to me. Now, one little thing that you want to do probably is with this particular thing, the MetaHuman Creator, you're going to want to go to the top of the window here where it says lit and click on that and change it to unlit. Like that. Because the MetaHuman Creator or the Mesh to MetaHuman plugin, which is what you're going to be using, really uses this unlit. It'll do better with the unlit than with the lit because the highlights of the lit will possibly cause it to not process the visual processing correctly. So it's going to look at this, and the AI software or the visual uh, image processing will find your eyes and will find your mouth and will find the smile line. And it's going to do that better if it's unlit than if it's lit. That's what they recommend. So switch it to that. And then down here, you're going to go and right click, and there's a whole MetaHuman animator section here. And what we're going to do is we're going to do a MetaHuman identity. A lot of this other stuff is for the MetaHuman animator. And I want to do just the MetaHuman identity asset. So it provides the tools to auto-generate a fully rigged skeletal mesh of human face with capture data, whether mesh or footage. So we're not going to be using footage for this. We're going to be using the mesh. So I'll go ahead and create that. And I'll call it whatever I want my MetaHuman to be called. So I'll call this one Tover 2024 since I have other versions. And that's good enough for me. And then we want to double click it to open it up. Okay, so here's where it's asking me to log in. So you do need to have an Epic Games account. It's free. You don't have to pay anything for that. And it's based on your email address. So mine's my NCSU email. And the reason this is important is because this is what you use for Bridge, and it's what the metahumans are all stored in the cloud. So this is how it's going to know whose metahuman this is. Because not anybody can get to your metahumans, only you can get to your metahumans. Well, what happened? That was weird. actually, I think, I don't know what happened there. Something happened. I'm gonna make sure I'm logged in up here. Oh, I see what's going on. I've got this message here. I don't want to go offline. It knows it's me. Okay, so maybe I am signed in. Oh, I see. There it is. So this is me logging into Bridge. Okay, so looks like I'm logged in. So the way the MetaHuman mesh to MetaHuman thing works is it's a left to right type of process. Um, it's got these tabs and they'll be grayed out until you do the previous one, and you'll just go from left to right. So the very first thing you're gonna do is you're gonna um, add the face in this case. Actually, okay. Um, all right, this one, all right, I did that wrong. So some things have changed since I last did this. The most recent things that we've been doing are MetaHuman Animator, and they're a little bit different. So I didn't, clicking on the add button was not the thing that I should have done there. So what I want to do here is bring in the model and yeah, open asset was what I wanted to choose there. So actually, I think I might have messed it up when I did the wrong thing to begin with. So I'm gonna just close this one and do this again. Because I think I hit the wrong thing there. I created a generic metahuman that I don't want to use. So let me just do this again. So call this Topher 2024 new. Oh, yeah. Okay. Um, yeah. So again, it's actually what I said at the beginning was you start at that first um, tab that's not grayed out and choose your mesh. And this is how it knows whether you're doing um, Metahuman Animator, which is from footage, or Metahuman Mesh to Metahuman, which is from a mesh. Again, you need to go in and change that to unlit before you proceed. At least that's what they recommend. And now we can actually go through the process. So what you want to do is you kind of want to zoom in a little bit, make sure, use your wheel, and let's see, I'm holding Alt down and left mouse button to really come in close to the face and be as straight on um, to the face as possible. Right now I'm using the right mouse button. Because this is it's actually just going to use a picture of this model to start this off, and it's called promoting a frame. So when I click this promote frame or hit the plus button down here on the bottom, it's gonna take a picture of that, and that'll be your front view. And then once it does that, it says frame 0 on the bottom here. That is your view that you're going to use to make the metahuman. I would say you want to see some of your ear shape, like here, this ear sticks out more than this one. So my metahuman should end up having a little bit asymmetrical ears. And, just make sure it can see everything. And then go to the next one. So we're moving from left to right. We're going to track markers. And it's going to try to find my eyes, mouth, the main things that will determine what the face looks like. And most of the time, honestly, it does a pretty good job. I don't usually have to change things too much. I mean, it's this going up above beyond the eyelid is fine because that's actually what it accurately looks like. The eyebrows, maybe those are a little bit off. It's kind of showing where the eyebrows are. I think that's pretty accurate. But you can go in here and you can move these around to adjust it to cover, like if it's not quite getting in the right place there, or if this is too much. To be honest with the eyebrows, you're going to have to use the Metahuman eyebrows. They give you like 10 eyebrows that you can choose from, and none of them really look exactly like my eyebrows. So I'm not sure. I think it's really just using this to find out where the eyebrows are. So I don't know if I would take the time to like move all of these so that it gets perfectly around my eyebrows. Um, I don't know that that's really necessary, but it is a little off, so I could try to do that. Oh, actually, you can move the whole line. So anyway, I think that's pretty good. So I'm gonna just see how that looks on the MetaHuman. So the next thing is the identity solve. If you click on that one, now I think it's actually doing quite a bit of processing. So it might take a little while. And you should be able to see like a mesh of some kind. And that's what I accidentally did when I hit add there at the beginning. I actually did an identity solve like without doing any of the other things. So it didn't look like anything, like just a generic metahuman. Okay, so now that I did the identity solve, if I look back out, I'm going to go ahead and pull this out by grabbing the name and docking it in the top. That way I can go back to the regular view and see what's in the folder over here. And I can see that I have a SK Topher 2024 new. And so that's the identity solve. It made a new skeletal mesh for my head. And if I want to see it in here, there are some controls on the top now for me to switch to that view. And I can see that it did make this ear bigger than this ear. So that's going to make it look more like me. Um, Stephen Colbert has that even worse than I do, where he has one ear that's really in and another one sticking out. But it's like that is one of the unique features that make a person look like a unique person. And the nose looks pretty good. And you can just compare them by going back and forth and looking if they look like the mouth, if the shape of the mouth looks like the shape of your mouth. And I think it's pretty good. And the eyebrows are not really doing much of anything there. There are some other views up here, like there's a split screen view, and you can let's see, move this around so you can compare. There's a side-by-side view. And this allows you to change the A-B view. So I think it looks pretty good. I'm pretty happy with that. I'm gonna just continue on to the next thing, which is actually to create the metahuman. So now we're gonna do the mesh to metahuman. At this point, I think it's gonna give me an error if I don't do something. So I'm gonna go ahead and do it. This has only created the head. In order to make the full metahuman, you're going to need to go and choose a body over here on the left by clicking on the body. And down here, this is the real drawback of metahumans. I don't know when they're gonna, make this better, but this is all the bodies you have to choose from. You have a height setting, so there's a short, medium, and tall. And in each one of those, there are only 6 body types. So if you fall within the middle of one of those two, then you're out of luck. You're going to have to choose whether, which way you want to be. Or, so I think it's the biggest drawback. One of the biggest drawbacks in metahumans is that their bodies can't be customized beyond that. So for me, I'm probably gonna choose, I'm not super tall, but I happen to know that when I do motion capture stuff, that the tall metahuman works better for my size, even though I'm really only like 5'10". The tall one fits my motion capture profile better. So I'm going to go with the tall one. And then I would normally want to choose one of these ones here, and I'll probably go with the middle one there. Um, you know, when you get a metahuman, I happen to have my metahuman up on the virtual production wall, and the clothes weren't working from Marvelous Designer, and I was basically in my underwear as a metahuman, and and I think I mentioned this, the dean was like, wow, walked in and was like, wow, you're really buff. So yeah, I'm gonna choose how I would like to be. And go to mesh to metahuman. So I'm only doing skeletal mesh. I'm auto rig skeletal mesh plus full metahuman. Again, some of this has changed since they added all the new stuff. I see. Um, okay. Uh, I think it's this one that I want to use. Again, they didn't have these options before. It was just one option. But I think this looks like the one that I want. And they also didn't have some of these other things here, which have to do with the metahuman animator, like the fit teeth is not something I think you ever had to do with the mesh to metahuman plugin. So I'm not sure if those are going to be unlocked or not. And prepare for performance is also something to do with the metahuman animator. So I don't think we really do that at I think that's only if we're doing MetaHuman Animator. So let me go ahead and go check and see if I have a MetaHuman now in Bridge. If I don't, then I'll try to go to the next one, but I think I don't have to do that. So if I go back to, sorry, go to here and I go to Bridge. So Bridge exists inside of, there is a whole separate MetaHuman animator in the cloud that you can go to by just Googling MetaHuman. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to open Bridge. So I want to go to Window Quixel Bridge. I'm going to click on it. I'm already logged in, so it should take me to my bridge. And my bridge will have my metahumans. When you click on the metahuman section, it brings up metahuman presets. Actually, it looks like maybe I'm not logged in because I'm not getting my metahumans. So yeah, I'm not signed in. Now I am. And now I have my metahumans. So what I'm looking for is a new one. It looks like I have two new ones. I'm not sure. Maybe could be, or it might be another one that yeah. And so these are from earlier, an earlier scan. This looks like just one that maybe I did, but I didn't finish it. So this is the one that I just did, Topher 2024. And if I click on it, it's going to bring it over here, and I need to start the MetaHuman creator to go and edit it. Now, this is where you're working in the cloud and where it makes a difference what version you're using. So they're even doing 5.4 ones now because they just released, I guess, 5.4 yesterday at GDC. So I want to use 5.2. Oh, I'm not in a queue. It's my turn next. No, it's not that. This is in the cloud and there's probably a million people um trying to go to it. So from all over the world. So um sometimes you get stuck in a queue where you're waiting because especially like a Saturday afternoon, I was like 100 deep in a queue and I couldn't even get in. So so there I am. I'm using my middle mouse button, Alt key to. So this is a sort of a default animation that it puts on it. You'll see how my hair makes a really weird stuff on my head here. Um, I look like one of those aliens from a 1990s movie. Um, but I can see my likeness in there. Um, I can see my nose and the shape of my mouth and my ears. And the eyes look pretty good. So it actually looks pretty good. Um, So when you are in here, you're going to want to edit this. It's actually under my Zoom stuff down here. Let me just, so there's a little edit button down there that I just clicked. And it's running a loop. This is the face idle loop on it right now. And that's just good for looking at it to see if anything looks really weird. Like maybe your eyes come in looking really weird and oh, I need to go back and redo that, or angle my head differently. I've come in here where the chin looked really, really weird because I had the head angled wrong. So I would need to go back and angle the head differently. But to fix things like this top of the head and put some skin and stuff on it, that's where I'm going to go through the process. And the first thing that you do is you're going to go up in this area, and you're going to first stop it from animating. And there's some things that you're going to want to do, like if you have like head deformations that don't look right because of your hair, there's regions here that you can tell it to not use the input from the scan and just use the default Metahuman. So the top of my head, I don't really need to use that. You see, when I pull that down, it starts looking a little better. Yeah. So the influence is the influence of your custom. Um,
Oh, so you're just telling it not to make it rough or off.
okay, so what it's telling me here is if I want to go in and do some serious editing on it, then maybe I want to make a copy of it. And you can do that. You can make a copy. Um, I think we would have to go back out. I don't think you can make a copy in here. I'm okay with losing the stack, but you can copy them out and then open it, open the copy if you want to. But I'm not going to do that. It's going to take too much time. So maybe I want to bring that top part down to 0, and maybe I want to bring this part of the forehead down just a little bit. I can see it's changing it a little bit. It's whether I think there's really anything distinctive about the top of my head. Hair is going to be over all of this head. So I personally think that the metahuman heads look a little funny without hair. They kind of look like they're cut off a little bit. Like, look at that. I don't think a head really looks like that. Yeah, maybe there's like too much up here, or maybe I don't know. It's just a little weird. So hair definitely covers that up. And mostly the rest of it I would leave. I don't think I would. I mean, maybe if I've got too much coming on from my beard, I might want to click the chin and pull that down. But I actually, I like the asymmetry that's coming in. And I think I'd probably leave most of all of this the way it is. It's gonna make me look too pretty if I take off all of my uh, asymmetries and stuff there. Just so I'm gonna leave it. Um, and then I'm gonna go to the blend section. Actually, I don't really want to do blend. Um, let's go back to here. Let's enable editing. I want to bring that up. Oh, here's where it's got a button for duplicating it. Okay. All right, why not? Okay. You actually do have a slider up here for the overall influence. That looks totally different.
Oh,
Yep.
but it only does that in like the head part, right?
No, it's doing across the whole face. No, not at all. So I guess because I duplicated, I lost the sliders I did earlier, but that's okay. I only did 2 of them. Okay, so there I'm pretty happy with that. Let's go to the um oh, so here's what was unlocked over here. You have blend, sculpt, and move. And they're different controls. Um Generally, probably I wouldn't do that much with these with a custom MetaHuman head, just because unless I think that it really didn't do a good job and I needed to like bend the nose more or pull the ear out more, then I might use these. It's got little dots here to change different regions. So like if I click here, I can move things around. Control Z, undo. And you've got lines here that you can move things around. But since this is coming from my scan, I don't think I would. You can turn off symmetry so that instead of moving both sides, it only moves one side. And that's probably going to be a little bit more accurate. The blend thing is if I wanted to blend with other heads in this database, but for this particular thing, I wouldn't do that unless I wanted to look like one of their default characters. So the main thing is I'd probably now go over to skin and create a skin for myself because, you know, I have no skin. I've got a gray skin. So first of all, you're going to assign a color to it. And you can choose whatever you want. You can always change it. So, you know, um, yeah. So, yeah. And so there's also a couple of sliders here. So there are these sculpt controls, maybe, no, I don't know if there's yeah, okay. Oh, that made all the difference. It looks a little better. Okay. All right, let's go back to the skin. So an important thing, an important thing on the skin is the texture of it. So there's a whole slider of textures here, and you just go through it and see if you can find one that looks a little bit like you. And they tend to go from young to really old. But if it's too young, it's not going to have much character. So it'll just be, like, I think having a little bit of texture on there makes it look more realistic. You can increase the roughness a little bit. So lower roughness is going to put a shine on your face, and higher roughness is going to put less of a shine. And contrast is, yeah, so that's like, that gave me a little bit more shadow around the eyes. Don't really think, I think it needs to be older for me. Still looks too young. I don't want to go too old, but like right there. It's got some creases on the forehead, and there's some, I could pull some freckles up. Yeah. I don't want this to look like a 30-year-old. I want it to be a, you know, little older. Saturation. Yeah, and I think imperfections make it look a little more realistic. Tone shift, I'm not sure what that does. And then you have accents where you can put some redness on the cheeks. A little redness on the nose. If you've been to the beach. You can put some lightness. That's looking a lot more realistic. Uh, Still needs some hair. Probably want to do something with the eyes. I don't think it really captured my eye color. My eyes are a little bit more like this. Um, and you can go in and change the colors to be more exact in the white part. I'll go ahead and leave it at the defaults for now. Teeth. You can just slide it around and see. See if you got some teeth that might look like yours. And then makeup. you can put some makeup on. Foundation, blush, lipstick. Uh, and maybe I'll just stick with the natural.
Oh.
That's straight out of Blade Runner. Okay, so I think I'm just gonna move on to the hair. And these are your hair choices. They're pretty limited as well. So this is the second worst thing for metahumans is their hair limitations. For me, something like maybe this one right here. Um, now, of course, it's not the right color. It looks like a bad hair dye. I could go more emo. I used to have hair like that. Or we could go a little bit more. Or George Costanza. Okay. All right. Maybe we'll stick with that one for right now. So I'm gonna go to color now. And I want to there's some presets, but what I really want is details and to add some salt and pepper in there.
Yeah, a little less. It's so- Later.
Yeah, the base color needs to be more brown. You can adjust sliders too. Kind of this hairdo is reminding me of that vampire in the Twilight movies, the king of the vampires. And probably, I'd probably want to maybe adjust maybe some of this too. Yeah, probably. You don't want hair necessarily underneath this other geometry. That probably wouldn't be a good idea. It seems like my head's like that hairline's too high.
It is, I mean. Yeah, and it's a little dirty here, you're a little more flat and so. There was a, I saw that.
I think maybe I need to go back and pull the head in a little bit. Is there one over here? Yeah.
Yeah. The other side. Oh,
It's starting to look better. I don't have like a that far up of a, I need a different hairstyle. That's cool. So I think that's the one I've used before. Maybe I need to pull the head up a little bit more on this one, but the eyebrows are gonna be a important thing. You probably want to look in a mirror when you do that. These ones? No.
Yeah.
Second row to the left, like here. Looks a little different on the face than it does on the, yeah. Doesn't really have an exact thing, I think, for my eyebrows. So, yeah, it's kind of fun going through these. Um, it would be nice if you could customize these a little bit. Like if you had some AI thing where you could just draw the shape of your eyebrow and it would make it. That would be cool. So the details tab is going to be more like, let's see. I don't know. Don't remember. It's more like do you want some salt and pepper on your eyebrows too? Maybe a little bit. All right, let's go with those ones. Eyelashes, I can decide. I just got a little bit of eyelashes right now. I could go with no eyelashes. I don't like the way they're coming up white. But maybe. Okay, we'll stick with the default one. And then we'll add some here.
Oh, yeah, that was really.
Okay, so now that we've got it all the way through to there, we can turn our idle animation back on. And and you can hold the L key down and move your cursor around to change the lighting. On the one side over here. Yeah, maybe could bring the influence down on that one a little bit. Oh, okay. So again, I mean, I could pull and push and pull some of that stuff to do that. Also, I mean, I'm a little under the weather today, so maybe I'm a little thinner looking, my cheeks. So then the body. See, that's what the dean saw when he walked in. And I was dancing too, so it was even worse. Um, so the third worst thing about metahumans is how little clothes they have. So I got a t-shirt. Let's put some bottom on first. Uh, so yeah, it doesn't give you any controls to change other than the body shape that we've already chosen. So there's nothing I can really do with that as far as I know, unless they've added something new. I don't think you have sculpt abilities on the, no, you don't. Takes me back to the face. Um, so yeah, there's not a whole lot of choices as far as pants go. Probably I go more with those than the skinny jeans. And those aren't bad. Probably not the tights unless I'm doing a mocap thing. And you do have on some of these, you have choices for like graphics. So I could put some surfboards on my t-shirt or beach scene. And this comes up in the texture map. If you put it on there and you wanted to change it, like I've changed mine to the wolf pack wolf on my metahuman by putting one of these default ones and then changing the texture map on it. So you can change the colors. Sometimes they have patterns on them. So that looks like a pretty good combination. Okay, so anyway, that's pretty much all I can do. There are other things down here that you can like body range of motion, face range of motion. If I do a face range of motion, it's gonna show me how the face deforms for this particular character. I did see some problems with the teeth there coming through the lips on one of those, and the smile is usually pretty bad. Now, that said, when I did the MetaHuman animator for my custom MetaHuman, it fixed a lot of that. And even the stuff that it didn't fix, I could fix manually with the animation controls. So I could make them, even when the smile gets a little weird, I can, or if the tooth were to come through, I can fix all of that. Eyes may have a little bit of weird stuff. One thing that I found with the metahumans is that they all have kind of small eyes. Um, they don't really do big eyes well. So that was an issue. And here's body range of motion, where it's just gonna show you how the body is deforming when you do your calisthenics type of things. And there is some issues like the in some cases the shoulders stick up too much. That is stuff that you can still fix, but in the default sort of animations that come out and the way it retargets from motion capture, you sometimes have to go in and fix it manually. Like just pull the shoulders down a little bit because they stick up too much. And then you have some things in here like different kinds of body poses, like artistic,
Wow.
emotional, fashion.
Hey.
Yeah, I forgot to do my shoes. That's I do not wear flip-flops. Let's do some of these. That looks better. And there's like happy A and happy B. That's not bad. Oh, what's that smell? All right, so let's just go back to idle. Okay, so now that that's done, I don't really have to hit save or anything. It's automatically saved. I just go back to my metahumans and it will be there in its current state. I could keep working on it. But if I look at this one compared to the old one, I don't know. I think it's, yeah, maybe the shape of the head. The haircut's the same. Like this is the same haircut. It's the shape, proportions of the head. This one looks maybe a little bit too squashed. This one maybe looks a little bit too big. Like somewhere in the middle would be good. So, that's it. I'm gonna stop recording.